Hello, guys, and welcome to Indiana Sports Connection. I am your residential anchor, Aaron. Thank you so much for joining me. We're going to talk a little bit about some sports from around Indiana today. Got a lot of stuff to talk about. Chris Holtmann just was fired from Ohio State after starting out pretty decent. He's had a 29-32 record, so Chris Holtmann out at Ohio State. I think Indiana, as badly as Indiana's played this year, that comeback loss to Ohio State, that had to really sting. And I mean, I can't imagine Indiana having a comeback like that from somebody this year. It would be absolutely terrible for them to see something like that. But a lot of stuff to talk about. The women's team playing tonight at Wisconsin at 8 o'clock. That should be really good. And the women's team is ranked 14th right now. I was doing more research on them because I watch your comments down below. I've had a few people ask me, do you cover the women's team, cover Notre Dame, cover Butler? So we're going to talk about Butler. I watched the Butler game last night. I tried to watch, and this is very difficult to do, but I tried to watch the Butler game through the eyes of like if I was watching the Indiana Hoosiers, because you know, you're just so much more into it and critical of your own team because, you know, you get more used to watching those guys day after day after day. So you kind of see what they can and cannot do more. But I watched Butler last night. I would say, pretty satisfying type of basketball to watch. They did not make a ton of threes. They were 5 of 25. So that ended up really biting Butler in the butt in the end. But they were right in the game to the very end. Marquette made a really great move. The guy made a really great move towards the basket at the end and put in a shot that kind of put the game out of reach. But Butler was right there the whole time. They were really fighting, and I like how they play. That was the first time I really watched their game, like from beginning to end. I've watched like parts of some of their games, and then Indiana State gets trounced last night, and that's just going to happen. They had won 9 games in a row, and just a tough night for Indiana State, but Indiana State ranked for the first time since the 78-79 team with Larry Bird, so that's really, really something. Let me check something here really quick before we get into this episode, because I am not sure if all of this, I have a bunch of new technology here and it's all set up. So I just want to see if this, all right. So I made a video earlier today talking about Mike Woodson and more reasons why I think he should leave Indiana or be fired, even though I know that it is highly unlikely that he's going to get fired when this season's over. It's just he's probably going to get another year. I wish we could move this along quicker. I hate when you make a mistake in life, don't double down on mistakes. Indiana has to just cut this off right where it is at the end of the season, unless there's some miraculous comeback. And that's what I'm praying for every day, is that Indiana is going to somehow figure it out, somehow be able to get over the hump, as they say. But so far, we have not seen anything like that. It's just not been good the whole time. Will we see it? Will we see it get better? It seems highly unlikely that it is going to get better before this season is over. But that being said, there's still a bunch of games left, and I will give Mike Woodson the benefit of the doubt. And if he went through and won like the Big Ten championship or something like that at the end of the season, I definitely would give him another chance. But until we see something, like watching that Butler game last night, I was thinking this. They took 25 threes in the game. They only hit 5 of them. They were, not hitting from outside. But they were not their action was not dumping the ball into the post. Most everything they were doing were screens and everything up top, and they were getting people into driving lanes, and a lot of people were driving downhill and getting to the basket. It was just a different brand of basketball. I know the Big East is a lot different than the Big Ten, but you know what? The way that the Big Ten plays is not really conducive to how you're going to win in the tournament anyway. Is that a problem within the Big Ten? Like, do you think you have to have a big guy in the Big Ten, like a big dominant center, to be successful in the Big Ten? I don't. And Michigan State is struggling this year, but Michigan State has never had like dominant inside guys like Edey, and he just coaches the crap out of them to rebound the ball and to do all these little things right. That is what we want to see out of our Hoosiers. And we really want to see them go in a more modern direction. I just wish there was a way when Mike Woodson first came in, the only reason I was really positive about it was because Thad Matta was there, and then Dane Fife was as his backup. So I thought it was really like a 3 to 4 year plan with Mike Woodson, and then Dane Fife would take over as head coach. I think that's what most people thought, that if Fife came there from a great assistant job at Michigan State, where he was probably going to take over at Michigan State after Tom Izzo left, and most people know, his brother Dugan Fife and him, they're all from Michigan anyway. He decided to come to Indiana. So being that all of that structure is gone now, it really leaves like a black hole. And look up the Indiana assistant coaches. There are a lot of retreads, not a lot of experience there with the assistants that Indiana has. So this is not getting any better for them. Let's go on and talk about something more positive. But there isn't a lot to talk positive about. Indiana State ends up getting really dogged last night, but they have made their way into the top 25 because they are one of the best shooting teams in the entire country. And that should really say something to us Hoosier fans, because these guys are Indiana guys that are playing on Indiana State, and they are really good. Now, Indiana State did show a lot of fight in this game. They came all the way back in this game, went ahead by 1 point, like 49. I think it was like 49 to 48, and Indiana came back, and then the wheels came off again. It was just too much for them to overcome. Now, they had won 9 games in a row leading into this game, and they got themselves into the top 10, so you can't really fault them that much. I watched the press conference with the coach afterwards. He's like, what happens when you win a bunch of games in a row like that, and this happens all teams, is like you're going to start to have some slippage. You win games, even though sometimes you had some bad play in those games, and then what happens is eventually you get to a game where there's just big time slippage like Indiana State had, where they're ranked for the first time. All of a sudden now somebody's really gunning for them in a way that they've never really felt since 1979. So Indiana State, I really hope they can get into the tournament. I think they are, and they are the best shooting team in the Missouri Valley Conference, but hopefully Indiana State can get in. Watching Butler last night, most people think that Butler would be like a 7 seed right now, but I did like what I saw out of Butler. I am going to watch more of them and pay attention more to them now that the NFL's over. I like to, put my attention towards the Final Four, everything like that. And then the Masters coming up after that. I'm a big-time golf fan, so always love Masters Week after the Final Four. It's just a great time of the year for sports where basketball is winding down. And not only that, it's only 45 degrees today here in Indiana, but a beautiful day. Finally, we get something nice. We've had a lot of sunny days all of a sudden, so it's making you think of spring. And the next few weeks, we're going to see more of these college basketball come together, and we'll be able to watch more of like how the tournament is going to develop and the seeding and everything like that. I've heard Jim Coyle and everybody say, Indiana definitely will be left out, But I always like to think there's a chance to win the Big Ten tournament. I mean, there always is. You can't give up on your team. There's always a chance your team could get hot at the right time. But will we see this out of this bunch? It seems highly unlikely, but it still is a possibility. So, do anything else to talk about? So, there is a story I did want to talk about. Romo at CBS. So, the incoming executives at CBS that were just hired there said some comments about Tony Romo, saying how he is not well received by the public. Could it be possible that Tony Romo could be fired from his job in the same way that he got his job from Phil Simms, which, but that is definitely a possibility. I think Tony Romo is kind of annoying during these broadcasts, but I just think it's funny that their incoming executive there mentioned how much people don't like him in, I guess, Twitter comments and stuff like that. People really rip him apart. So that's something else to talk about. But I really just wanted to make this video today to touch on some of the other parts of things happening in sports in the state. Tell me in the comments down below. Tell me something fantastic happening at a high school or something like that, and I will try to cover that on the show. But for the most part, it is super time consuming making these videos. I try to make the videos about a topic that people are going to be interested in, and I try to edit the video so it's not taking a bunch of your time out of your day. I try to make it as short as I can, trying to make them about 10 to 12 minutes. So trying to compress sometimes all of those words and everything into a video that's going to, still be something that people want to watch and make it entertaining for people can be very difficult. And I do a lot of research about Indiana basketball and just what's going on with the team and everything like that, and watch all the press conferences with them. So as much as I would love to eventually bring some people aboard here and have more people, and I'm in the works of starting a website where I'll have articles written and things like that. But it's all in due time, because I'm only one man working here at Indiana Sports Connection, and I make all this content for the Hoosier fans, and I am just a diehard Indiana fan and Colts fan, and that's something I will get more into as we go along. But trying to think, not too much else to talk about today. Thank you so much for joining me.